Sometimes, life can feel like one big project, constantly trying to put the pieces together. What if I told you it's okay to be a mess? Life is a journey, and we must transform ourselves into who we want to become. We start by knowing who we are and with the relentless pursuit of our passion and purpose. How did I do it? With a lot of help from my friends. And we'll talk about all of that right here on The Beautiful Butterfly Project.
Life is not easy for any of us, but what of it? We must have perseverance and above all, confidence in ourselves. We must believe that we are gifted for something and that this thing must be obtained. Chemist and physicist Marie Curie said this. The great Maya Angelou said, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. And today, on season 3 of The Beautiful Butterfly Project, we are so honored to welcome Kevin Neal. Kevin is a doctoral candidate at Liberty University, and as a senior engineer, he has over 24 years experience in the telecommunications industry. He is a former pastor, speaker, coach, and trainer with the John Maxwell Leadership Group. Kevin brings a myriad of experiences from being a Desert Storm veteran to a firefighter to an EMT, but his most prized experience is being a father, a husband, and a grandfather. He is the owner of Bridges to Better, which is a coaching business that offers workshops, seminars, keynote speaking, and coaching to aid in personal and professional growth to individuals, organizations, and companies. The Beautiful Butterfly Project is honored to welcome Kevin Neal to the show. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Fine. How are you? I'm glad to be here with you.
I'm doing fantastic, and I am so excited because we are kicking off season 3, and you are literally our first guest in video format and show format for the Beautiful Butterfly Project, and I'm really excited to have you.
I feel so honored that I'm the first one to break in the new video project.
It is certainly exciting. And so as I refer to the people who are going to listen to the show as the Butterfly Nation is what I like to call them, could you please give the Butterfly Nation a little bit of an introduction into who you are?
Well, first of all, I'm a father, grandfather now. I am currently part of the Men program at Liberty University. Hopefully be finishing up this year my dissertation. I'm working on that very hard. At this point, it takes a whole lot, but I'm looking forward to it. I've been in the telecommunications industry. I'm a senior engineer. I've been with telecommunications for going on 25 years now. And aside from that, I'm a speaker, coach, trainer, former pastor. I've been certified with the John Maxwell organization as a leadership and life coach and speaker. And I'm just looking forward to what is coming next for me in my progression. Looking forward to hopefully retiring a little sooner than later. We'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. And of course, you are a myriad of things. You're just so layered. And as I was reviewing your bio and some of the show notes before we started, what really struck is how everything, starting with who you started your life as, how it just layered and layered, and it's an evolution into who you are today. And so as I'm taking a look at your bio, one of the questions that I wanted to ask is that all of us really has this one experience that shapes us into who we really are. And we all have that defining moment, really, whether we recognize it or not. So what was that one experience for you?
Well, that one experience, I would say, was probably my leaving from my familiar surroundings, my family and so forth. Had a very close-knit family. My parents They were very supportive and had loving brothers and sisters. And my family moved from Indiana
Okay.
to Mississippi, of all places.
Mississippi.
And I'm not going to say Mississippi, but we moved down to the South. But my mother is originally from Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay, awesome.
And
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons why we moved down. It's a long story, and I know we don't have all day, but I could tell you some stories from my father, how he ended up being a quadriplegic for 3 years and how he was able to overcome that. But we ended up moving to Mississippi. And while in Mississippi, I knew that that was not the place for me. I knew that that was not where I wanted to end my journey. And so I ended up getting married in Mississippi to my wife. She's from Jackson, Mississippi as well.
All right.
But we started having children. We had our first child. Then we had our second child. And I said, I'm not going to have any more children in Mississippi. I said, this is it for me.
Got it.
So I decided to join the military, join the Army, which took us from Mississippi to Germany, caused us to have to, as they say, fend for ourselves. We had to be on our own. We had no kind of support other than the military.
Wow.
We had no family or anything there. So thing was, I found out that I had to depend upon me.
Yeah.
And I had to figure it out. A lot of times when we have family, friends, and connections, we kind of lean on them a little more than we should. And when you're all by yourself and you have no kind of connections, no kind of community, you have to figure things out on your own. And that's all a part of the growth process. And that was really what caused me to see things differently.
I think we already have a couple of synergy points. I am originally from the South. I currently reside in Metro Atlanta, but I'm an Alabama girl, small town, Alabama, a town called Bruton, 45 minutes from Pensacola, Florida, a little stop in the road. So I'm very familiar with Jackson, Mississippi. But also what I heard you say was that you didn't feel like you fit in the South, that wasn't going to be the place where you continued to raise your family, and that you felt that you had to get out. My father was also in the Army, so I spent some time in Butzbach, West Germany. And so the feeling of having to fend for yourself, you and your wife, and raising your kids, it does create these moments, not only of uncertainty, but also of self-awareness and depending upon yourself. And so could you expand just a little bit about what it is to be self-aware and becoming self-dependent, and how that relates to, a journey of change and transformation?
Well, actually that's a layered question for me.
Okay.
Because even as I moved to Germany, there was a layer that I was able to achieve in that respect. But then even years following, more layers began to evolve. And I began to see that, I recognize that I'm not living my life like I really want to live it.
I love it.
Is this what I intended for me, or is this what somebody else is expecting me to do, or the type of life that I'm supposed to live? And it took years even after that for me to say, okay, maybe the path that I'm traveling now is really not what I was supposed to be doing. Maybe the way that I'm going now is really not the way that I'm supposed to be going. And I had to come to a place where I found who I really was. I say that now. I talk about how we often end up not knowing our own story, and how that we end up living someone else's story, or rather living as an extra in someone else's story. Because if we don't write our own story, we end up being an extra in somebody else's.
Oh my gosh, I just got so excited right there, because that's why I do the Beautiful Butterfly Project. Those are the stories that I want to tell about really finding your own path, finding your own journey, finding your own life. Something you said that really struck me was that if you don't know who you are and if you don't live your own life and work at finding that out, then you're just an extra in your life.
Absolutely.
Because we start really just how we grow up and where we're from, it has these,
Hmm.
it, it shapes our thinking, like it
Right.
shapes our idea of what life should be. And we gain, our belief systems, and we gain, the way that we think how life is supposed to go. And we oftentimes
Hmm.
live our life according to those rules instead of
Right.
feeling like it's okay to step outside of that and make our own rules.
Hmm.
So,
I
yeah,
agree. Yeah, and sometimes we feel afraid to challenge what we've been taught, afraid to challenge what we have held up as the ultimate idea, because we don't know what happens after we get out of that.
right.
If that's not it, where do I go? That's kind of unsettling. But if we are to ever really find out who we're intended to be,
Yeah.
to find out what our real purpose is, we've got to break out of that box. And that's not to say that everything that we're taught is wrong, but it's to say you have to find your own path.
I love it. And that's a perfect segue. And I'm so glad that you talked about purpose. And, here on the Beautiful Butterfly Project, we're all about, passion about pursuing that purpose and making that discovery. What do you feel that your purpose is?
My purpose, in a nutshell, is to add value to people,
Okay.
to build people, to help people to see what their purpose is. My purpose is helping people to find their purpose.
Okay.
And if I can do that, that makes my life complete.
Wow. And you talk about your purpose is helping others find their purpose. And so would you say that early on you knew exactly what your purpose was, or did that take a little bit of work?
I would say it was not as refined
Okay.
as it is now, but I always knew that I wanted to help people. I always knew that I desired to open the eyes of those who could not see past beyond their circumstances,
Mhm.
those who could not see past beyond what they were going through, beyond what they were dealing with. My life, and I look back on what I've done all of my life, and I see how each path that I took ended up being something to help people
Okay.
in one way or another.
Yeah.
And it just, within these last several years, has been refined to, this is what I'm called to do.
And I've heard so many individuals who are in the coaching business say, if you keep coming back to something and if you
Hmm.
love it and if it's something that you thrive in, then that is your
Hmm.
purpose. It may take
Right.
many different, roads and many different facets, and it may evolve over time, but that is your purpose. So I have a follow-up question to that. I know as a pastor, because you say a former pastor, but my father-in-law was a minister of evangelism and outreach. So once a pastor, you're really always a pastor.
Hmm.
And pastors they always have these great affirmations and great mantras and how they give the people that they reach hope. And so, do you have a certain affirmation or mantra that you repeat to yourself, daily, or something that you ascribe to, or something that you live by?
Probably would say not one particular mantra, but one thing that I do hold dear is that my life is to bless others. And as long as there's breath in my life, as long as there's breath in my body, there's more for me to do to help others.
Okay. And so when you talk about helping others, how did that shape? Because you were in the Army, like you've done a lot of things. And I know I've already done the introduction, but when I look at this, it talks about how you were 24 years in telecommunications in that industry. You're a former pastor, you're a speaker, you're a coach, you're a trainer. But talk to us about your experiences, if you don't mind me asking, and helping people as a firefighter and as an EMT in your service in the military.
Working in public safety as a firefighter, EMT, you see lots of things. You see situations that make you cringe, some that break your heart, some that make you wonder, how in the world could something like this happen? We were dealt with fires, we dealt with accidents, people who were maimed, and some didn't come out alive. And you're always wishing or always wanting to be able to help, even if it's just to say a word of comfort to, a loved one, or to give a word of encouragement to someone who has just lost everything.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult, especially when you look at it and say, well, they probably think that I do this job all the time, so I'm kind of callous to feeling, but you never become callous to the hurts and the pains of others. And so, in that, I would say that helping people should automatically build you as well.
Ah,
It's a two-way street.
yeah.
As I said earlier, I feel like if I'm helping someone, I'm fulfilling my purpose. So when I look and I see areas where I can help, that builds me up too. That says, well, I know that my job is not finished. I know that there's something else for me to do.
Mhm.
I know that I am accomplishing what I'm here to accomplish.
That's really amazing because you talk about it as almost a way of servant leadership,
Yes. Yes,
because
absolutely.
pastoring is a form of servant leadership. Your
Hmm.
work as an EMT and, service in the military, just public safety in general, is about servant leadership. And so when we talk about purpose, we talk about, the pursuit of that purpose. We may have all had someone in our lives that, inspired us. I know for me, I was raised, my mom, and I had some great aunts. I had an aunt who was a business owner. She was the first business owner that I knew that was a woman, and she was very powerful. And she taught me a lot about confidence and about pursuing, goals and dreams. Did you have someone in your life that really was someone who was a role model?
Absolutely. And I don't want to get emotional.
And
My
it's
father
okay
passed
if you
away.
do. And it's okay if you do.
My father passed away in 2019.
Sorry to hear that.
I moved from Atlanta in 2019, and I started telling you about the story of his, being quadriplegic. Beginning of the story was in his 20s, he developed this debilitating disease in his spine, and he didn't know that he had it. It was something that he had from birth, from what I understand.
Wow.
It manifested in his mid-20s. Now, when he turned, I think it was 24, 25, he and my mother got married, want to raise children and so forth. So a year after they got married, he had to have surgery on his spine and became a quadriplegic. My mom had to take care of him for 3 years, had to do everything just like taking care of a newborn baby. Now, that in itself would have been a lot for anyone. But my dad, he had such an imagination. He could see things beyond, and he saw that he would never live his life with his back on a bed. And the doctors told him that he probably wouldn't ever have movement again. And he couldn't accept that. He saw himself taking care of his children. I remember him telling me, he said that while he was in the bed, and one of the pastors of the church came and told him, said, Brother Neal, you're going to be okay. God is going to take care of you.
Right.
And my dad said, I understand that sometimes, life happens. And he said, but I don't want my children to be raised by somebody else. He said, I don't want my children to be mistreated by somebody who comes into the family. He said, I want to see my children raised right. And that pastor spoke to him prophetically. He said, Brother Neal, he said, the Lord says, if you will commit yourself to him, you will not only see your children grow to be adults, you'll see your grandchildren grow to be adults.
Wow.
And this disease, which should have claimed his life by the age of 47, he began to walk again 3 years later, using a cane. I saw him walking with a cane for the rest of his life. And he died at the age of 89 years old.
Wow.
Which he should have been gone by 47.
Wow.
According to medicine.
Right.
But I saw him do some amazing, amazing things that people usually would kind of say, okay, we can't do this without A, B, and C,
right.
without certain equipment and so forth. I saw my dad do some things that somebody with full activity of their limbs would not attempt to do. And he had a never quit attitude. He would never stop. I remember one story, and I'm not going to take so much time, but
now, this
I
is our
remember one
conversation.
story.
You tell your stories.
I remember one story he told us about how my mother went to this convention, this women's convention. And he said, well, how long are you going to be gone? And she told him how long she was going to be gone. And he said he would lay in the bed. And this was, long after he was beginning to walk again. We had a house, and that's a whole nother story. We had a house that was placed on a plot of ground. And it was, I guess, maybe 4,000 square feet. Yeah. But the house did not have a carport. It had a driveway with concrete, but it didn't have a covering.
Yeah.
And my dad didn't want to see my mom have to come in, when it's raining and that kind of thing, and have to weather the weather and so forth. And so he said he had been just laying in the bed at night, wondering, how can I build this carport over the driveway? Now, mind you, he's on a cane.
Yeah.
At this time, all of us were adults. All the children were adults. So none of us were there. And he said he just thought about, imagining how can I build this carport for my wife so that when she gets back, she'll be surprised and, she won't have to worry about having this covering. He said he thought about it. He just imagined how can I do this? Mm-hmm. Eventually, he came up with a strategy. And by the time my mother got home, he had built a carport.
Wow.
Over the driveway.
Wow.
That's only part of the story. My dad has done so many amazing things. It has driven me to be the person that I am, to have a never quit attitude, to never just give up.
Right. And never quit and never give up attitude with physical challenges.
Yes.
That
yes.
in and of itself is amazing because it shows the power of the mind. It shows the power of the spirit. It shows fortitude because, like you said, a regularly able-bodied person, you've witnessed your dad do things that even those individuals couldn't accomplish. And it just goes to show that when you have that mindset of never quit, that on how much that can propel you through life, just, along with, preparation, just as far as, knowledge, skills like education, but fortitude will take a long way. And so talking about that being a role model for you, a motivator for you, and your father doing those amazing things, is that coupled with your passion for people? And so talk about what you do in your coaching business. And I was looking at your website and I see that you are, a certified, coach with John Maxwell. And we all know, for those that are in the coaching business, that that's probably one of the highest, accolades and certifications that you can receive. So talk to us about what you do in your coaching business.
Okay. I became a John Maxwell coach and speaker back in 2016, and read John Maxwell books, and I always esteemed him highly. I never actually thought that I would become a John Maxwell coach or speaker or anything like that. That was just not, at that particular time, I guess, was not the road that I thought that I would be going down.
Right.
I was more centered or focused on Christian ministry.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the path that God had called me to. But I realize now that he has called me to a broader audience. He's called me to a larger field. And what I try to do with my coaching and my speaking is to give people an open door into who they can be and help them to understand that leadership and going to do what you're purposed to do has more to do with, first of all, knowing who you are and learning how to lead yourself. People look at leaders and figure they have it all together. They think that they know right things to do and say.
Come on now.
But actually, you find that a lot of leaders have not mastered leading themselves yet.
Ah,
And therefore, they have a problem leading others.
yeah,
Because how can you lead me somewhere where you haven't been?
that's right.
So that is, what I try to focus on is, first of all, who are you? And are you able to lead yourself well?
Oh, ooh, you just said a whole bunch right there. How could you lead me somewhere if you don't know how to lead yourself? And it starts with knowing who you are. And that is the whole premise of the Beautiful Butterfly Project. It really starts about knowing who you are. For me, I said it's okay to be a mess, right? As long as we don't stay a mess, as long as there's some change and evolution in there to where we figure out what our purpose is, we passionately pursue that purpose. And then in turn, we not only help ourselves, but we help others. And I saw not only do you coach, but is there something about mastermind groups too? Because I know how important mastermind groups are, which is why I started this podcast, because during COVID, I was in a mastermind group and we met every Wednesday, and it was the most empowering thing for me to start thinking about this journey that I was on a little bit differently. So talk to us about your mastermind group.
Masterminds are basically about opening up yourself to other perspectives, other ideas. It's about recognizing where you have blind spots, recognizing where you can't see the things that you are doing or things that are possibly sabotaging what you are trying to accomplish. But when you hear other people chime in, when you hear other people share their views, when you hear other people kind of touch back on what they've been through, it helps you to clarify where you are and helps you to kind of hone in on what you need to do in order to get to where you want to go. And if you don't have those other, sometimes opposing opinions, sometimes they're not nice, or they don't feel right to you for one reason or another, but it causes you to challenge what you feel or what you think. And when you come with the masterminds, nobody is particularly right or wrong, but you're sharing ideas, you're sharing experiences, which help us to come to a culmination of who I am, where I'm trying to go, what I'm trying to do.
That's really amazing, because the benefits that you can get from a mastermind, it's really an extension of the one-on-one coaching that you can get, and that you have your idea of what you want to do and where you want to go, but the masterminds kind of open that up a little bit. So like you said, to see it from different perspectives, because you may be doing something that someone else may have some insight on, and you really learn from one another, is from what I hear you say.
You mentioned how sometimes you might be a mess, but it's okay to be a mess. But the question is, do you recognize that you're a mess? And that's what you have to do.
Let's
You have
talk
to
about
sometimes,
that.
sometimes you have to have somebody else that recognizes that you're a mess
Yeah.
because you think you look fine. That's almost like if you go out of your house before you look in the mirror, you think you look good. You think it, and somebody else sees you on the street and say, "What's this in your hair? What's this? You got your clothes on backwards."
Right.
They go through all that, but you didn't look at yourself in the mirror. You can't see yourself, but people outside of you see something that you don't see,
Right.
and you have to be willing to accept. Okay, well, yeah, that is me. That is the problem with some people. They're not willing to accept the bad, the messed up,
Mm-hmm.
the things that are about them that they don't particularly care for. They never thought that that was them.
Right. And so talk to us about, and I'm going to expand on, just the coaching aspect and being a mess and being able to recognize that. But I read that you just started a new business or a new role in December. Could you talk to us about that and tell the Butterfly Nation what that is all about?
Okay. As I said earlier, I'm a part of the John Maxwell organization as a John Maxwell coach, but I also started my own personal coaching business, and we're located here in Anderson, South Carolina,
Okay.
but we're doing business wherever the need is. We'll be coaching, training, teaching, speaking, and it will be a full service, both in person or virtual,
Okay. Yeah.
that we will be doing those. And looking forward to helping and adding value to other people.
Because I know that that's one of the things that you love to do, that is your passion, is helping and adding value to people. So who would be your ideal coaching client? We just talked about recognizing that you're a mess and knowing that you're a mess and being open to those conversations about you being a mess. So who is your ideal coaching client?
The ideal coaching client would be someone, first of all, who recognizes that they don't know all they need to know about themselves.
Yeah.
When we get to a place where we feel like we know it all about ourselves, we're at a place where we really can't be helped. So, first of all, you have to know that I don't know everything about myself.
Come on now.
I cannot be a true mirror for myself. Someone outside of me has to help me with that.
Right.
And also someone who wants to grow personally and possibly in their business or in their profession, to grow as a leader. But as I mentioned before, growing first personally as a leader, to lead yourself. And those are the people who are ideal clients.
That's pretty amazing that you've, taken in all of your experience working in, just in public safety, knowing that you didn't quite fit in the, in the Mississippi town that you were in and wanting to do more with your life, and you're building this coaching platform. And you also speak. And when you're speaking to organizations or groups, what are some topics that you speak on just for the audience? But perhaps there's someone out there that is watching that they're looking for someone exactly with your particular skill set. What are some areas in which you speak?
Some of the areas that I speak in is, number one, leadership.
Okay.
How to become a better leader, how to communicate, how to become a better team. Also, I have a book that will be released in March about imagination.
Okay.
And it's dealing about how we have often allowed our imaginations to be diminished because we feel that it's no longer necessary because we are adults now. We don't need to imagine. We don't need to have that childish thing about us that we imagine. But that imagination is what has created all of the notable creations in history.
Yeah, all of the innovations. Yeah.
Nothing has been created with, and I would even go back all the way back to the creation of the earth. I would say God had to have an imagination in order to create the earth like he did.
Right.
Because we are a part of God, because he is in us, we are creative beings. We are imaginative beings, but we have been taught down through the years to allow that to just, settle to the bottom and follow the daily routines that we follow the standardized ideas, no new innovations. Just follow the plan, follow the path that's already set before you,
Wow.
and that is killing our imagination. I mentioned in the book how that I'm a avid movie lover, and I notice how it seems like there are no new ideas coming. Everybody wants to remake an old movie.
I know.
Why is it that the new ideas are not coming?
Uh,
Because everybody's following a pattern that they
right.
think is successful.
Right.
But when there's no new imagination, there's no innovation, there's no new ideas, there's no creation.
Because innovation also requires you to take the road that isn't traveled often. It may have a lot of
Right.
thorns, like it may have a lot of roadblocks. And, people want what's easy, what's
Hmm.
what's going to be quick and what's going to
That's it.
sell. People want to do what's popular and
Hmm.
not is what is unpopular. And so I am
Right.
so excited to know, that your book is coming out and the topic of your book. And I'm just really excited to see someone talk about imagination and how we need it in order to be, and just innovative in everything that we seek to do in life. And so
Hmm.
here on the Beautiful Butterfly Project, there are just a couple of questions that we just ask that of every guest that comes on to the show. And so I just call these questions just the lightning questions. And so, Kevin, Neal, are you ready for these lightning questions?
I think I am.
Okay.
I'll try.
Okay. They're really not that bad. What is your favorite color?
My favorite color, I would say purple.
Tell me why purple.
It's a royal color.
Royalty,
And
yes.
yeah.
Royalty. It is vibrant, and I also love purple. So purple is probably one of my favorite colors as well. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word, I would say growth.
Growth. And tell us why growth.
Because I feel that it's so important that we realize that if we're not growing, we're dying.
Ah,
If we're not building ourselves in one way or another, then we're getting left behind.
if we're not growing, we're dying. And if we're not building, then we're being left behind on our own journey and
Yes.
being, a guest character in our own life. What is one thing that you are afraid of?
I would say the number one thing that I'm afraid of is leaving this life still full, leaving this life not being emptied. And I say that because I was diagnosed with cancer
Oh, wow.
back in 2017. It was blood cancer, multiple myeloma. And they said if it didn't progress within 2 years, chances are I probably won't have to have any type of treatment. So 2017, 2018, 2019. Now, mind you, my father passed away in 2019 in March. So my father passes away in March. I go through the rest of the year. In November of 2019, the doctor calls me up because I've been going to him, every month to make sure that, all the levels were okay. 2019, my doctor calls me up. He says, well, the cancer has progressed. You're going to have to start taking treatments. And so in the beginning of 2020, I began taking chemotherapy. I had to do bone marrow transplant and the whole nine. And so that was one thing that kind of stirred me and let me know, listen, what you need to do it now because you don't know what tomorrow holds. And so I say that to say, I don't want to leave this earth, no matter when it is. I don't want to leave this earth with work undone. I don't want to leave this earth still with things in me that need to be poured out to other people.
Wow. I don't think I was ready for that, but I appreciate the transparency because you just helped someone. You just helped someone with your testimony there. And you have a whole, if it's not in the book about imagination, then I see a documentary. I see a film. I see more that you can do with just that story. And I know you have many, many, many more. And the last question in the lightning round is this. If you had one day left here on earth, what would you do it? How would you spend it?
If I had one day left here on earth.
Just one.
Can I split the day up?
Yeah, we can do half and half. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I would spend half the day with my family, spending time doing things that we love to do. And the second half, I would spend helping people, finding someone who needs what I offer, who needs what I can do, and share with them.
Still serving.
Yeah.
That's what I hear you say. And if you had one thing to leave with the Butterfly Nation as we conclude our time together, what is one thing that you would like to leave them?
What I would like to leave with the Butterfly Nation is that butterflies don't begin butterflies. Butterflies start off as a larva and they become, and it's the growth process in becoming the butterfly. The growth process in any animal, human being, it hurts. It's difficult. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. But if you're going to be who you were designed to be, you've got to deal with the hurt, the pain, all of the things that you have to go through. You have to deal with it in order to get to the butterfly. So deal with it, go through it, and then you'll see the butterfly on the other side.
Amazing. That just blessed my spirit right there. You caught the essence of the Beautiful Butterfly Project. So tell the Butterfly Nation where we can find Kevin Neal. Give us your social media. Give us your handles.
My handle on Twitter is @KDNeal, K as in kilo, D as in Delta, Neal. And my website is on John Maxwell, and that's johnmaxwellgroup.com/Kevin Neal.
Amazing.
And I think that's about it.
Amazing. And I'd like to leave the Butterfly Nation with one of your last words that you had given me in, the show notes prior to the interview today. And you said, focus on the unseen and not the seen. The seen you can do nothing about, but the unseen you can create. Create solutions by thinking outside the box. Look for answers through what has not been done and not follow the standard patterns. Kevin Neal, the Beautiful Butterfly Project, thanks you for being here today on the show, and we look forward to having you on again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Beautiful Butterfly Project. I hope you found it to be insightful, but most of all, inspiring. If you are interested in being a guest or learning more, please visit our Facebook page at The Beautiful Butterfly Project or email us at thebeautifulbutterflyproject@innovativebutterfly.com. We hope to see you again soon as we take this amazing journey together on The Beautiful Butterfly Project.